So my talk today is pain is pain. Pain is pain. In our philosophy, we do talk a lot about pain. We talk about pain is mandatory and suffering is optional. Pain is going to happen. Just being human, there will be pain. But I particularly wanted to talk about this tonight because of something that happened to me earlier this week. I was cleaning some things out of the barn that we have here, that we have things in storage, and I was moving them to another place that we have storage for. And one of the boxes was memorabilia. And I hadn't really looked in that box for a long time. So I opened it up and I'm rooting through it. Oh, I forgot I had this, I forgot I had that. And I came across this little letter. It's very, very, very old. 45 years old, approximately. And I had forgotten about this letter. I didn't know I still had it. I hadn't forgotten about it, but I didn't know I still had it. I thought I had gotten rid of it. So when I was about 10, there were a bunch of neighborhood kids, and we all played together. Boys and girls, all ages, from probably 5 or 3 through early high school. Not really older kids, but early high school. And there were a bunch of boys and a bunch of girls, and there was a couple of boys, and there was a boy that I liked. I was 10, I had a little crush on him. And I got this letter delivered to our house. Not really delivered, there's a drawn-on postmark, and it's typed. And in this letter, they made fun of me. They said really mean things on 3 very scratchily typed pieces of paper. They're very old. And I kind of laughed it off. There was some clever writing, and my 10-year-old self didn't really know what to do with this. So I'm used to having a brother and being teased, and I have 5 boy cousins. And so, as I've done with lots of teasing in my life, I just laughed it off. And I didn't recognize in my 10-year-old self, I had no awareness that something in me from that moment shifted. I was 10. I didn't have a concept or an understanding of what was happening inside of me as a result of this innocent, silly little letter. I shared this on Facebook this week, and I got a lot of responses. One of the things in the letters was, you're ugly and all this stuff. And everybody reaffirmed, oh, you're beautiful, you've always been beautiful, we love you, you're awesome. And that wasn't why I posted it. I posted it about this incident with a picture of me with some of my friends because I feel that a lot of us have pain, things that happened to us when we were little, maybe so little that we had no words to even explain it, that cause us pain that we don't recognize until much later. Maybe never. Maybe some people never. But the pain that happens ripples out in very interesting ways and shows up in very interesting ways. For me, it showed up as a need to please, even more than I already had, a need to be looked at with approval by boys, later on by men, and that became promiscuous behavior when I was younger. There was something in me that felt broken from the moment I received this letter. I was 10, so up until then, I pretty much thought I was awesome, and I was. I was awesome. But something in me broke when I got this note. And something in me believed the lie instead of the truth that had been being told to me all the time in my life about how wonderful I was and how smart I was and how special I was. So I also pushed it away, pushed down that pain because I had judgment about my pain. As I got a little older, and I started doing, like in my mid-30s, I started doing some inner child work. Many of us have done inner child work, where we get in touch with the little person inside of us and what that little person needs and feels. And until we recognize that, sometimes we're operating as that wounded little person in the world, which is what I was doing. I was constantly saying, like me, like me, like me. Let me be enough. Prove to me that I'm enough. So in my mid-30s, I started doing some internal work. I started doing inner child work and some deep spiritual work, and I started to remember this pain from way back when I got this letter. I remembered this pain, and I talked about this letter in some of the work that I did. I shared about how that had affected me. But I also continued to push parts of it away, because my pain, this little thing, is so insignificant compared to so many other people's pain. It's so small. It's so ridiculous. You know, many people were beaten and abused and told they were terrible from the time they were born, and there's a lot worse pain than a silly letter by some boys when you're 10, right? When we experience pain, if we judge it against somebody else's pain, I feel we're making a mistake. We look at it as more or less than somebody else's. Well, my pain's more than your pain, and now pain becomes a competition. Or is my pain valid or not? Well, pain is. There's no valid or not valid with pain. Pain is, whether it's in our physical body or our emotional body or our soul, pain just is. Sometimes we tell stories about, well, what really happened was probably these boys liked me, and boys being boys, the story we tell about boys, this was the way they knew how to show it. So that's probably what really happened. But that's discounting. Oh, well, my parents didn't know any better, so the things they said that were terrible or mean or beat me or whatever, they didn't know any better, but it's a way of shunting off our pain. And when we do that, that's when we suffer, in my estimation, in my feeling. When we push away our pain, when we negate our pain, when we justify our pain, whether we say that it's valid or not valid, that's when we suffer. That's when we continue to carry it around at an underground level, and it ripples out and affects a lot of our life unconsciously. We have no awareness of it. When I was in my 30s, I had some awareness with it. I started to do a lot of healing, and I started to really let go of that old idea that I wasn't enough, there was something wrong with me, that I was ugly. I watched a TED Talk a while back, and I tried to find it so I could specifically reference the woman who gave the talk, and I couldn't find it. So I'm just going to say this woman gave a TED Talk, and she happened to be a lesbian, and she happened to have had a tough life. And she said in her talk that a lot of people come up to her afterwards and they say, oh, you know, what you went through, that was so terrible, and I had some stuff in my life, but it's nothing like what happened to you. And the crux of her talk, the point of her talk, was pain is pain. My pain is no more or no less than yours. Pain is pain. When we judge it, when we push it away, when we make it less than or more than somebody else's, we are stuck with it. It carries on in our life. When I found this letter, I had, instead of remembered pain, I had actual physical felt pain. I burst into tears when I opened this letter. Even now, I feel a little choke in my throat. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that, because now I can feel the pain that that little girl never got to feel. I can feel it, and in my imagination, I can go back and scoop her up and tell her that this was a lie. This was not the truth of who you are. I can stop carrying it around. I can stop suffering from this pain. We can all do that if we are willing to feel it. And that is terrifying. Because sometimes we think if I feel the pain, I'm never going to get to the bottom of it. I will feel this way forever. And that's just not true. Louis C.K. is a very, very funny comedian. He's also a very, very wise man. And just this week, coincidentally enough, I saw 2 little snippets that were posted on Facebook that caught my attention and that spoke directly to what I'm talking about now. He says that we all have sadness or pain. He said usually it comes up when there's nothing else going on, like in the car. And other than driving, there's nothing else distracting us. And so we start to feel, oh no, I'm alone in the universe. And then we get terrified, and so we reach for our cell phone or we do something to distract ourselves. He said, we want to distract ourselves from the pain. We don't want to feel that first little bit of sadness, that first little bit of the pain. So we distract. We drink, we smoke, we have sex, we eat, we do whatever. We watch TV, we watch the news, we distract ourselves. If we can just sit with it, sit with the sadness or sit with the pain, he says go into it. Stand in the way of it. Like imagine it's coming at you like a freight train. Oh no, here it comes. Stand right in the way of it. He said when he first discovered this, he was driving, he pulled over to the side of the road and just sobbed. Just sobbed. He says when we can go into the sad, we find, after a few minutes, that this happiness bubbles up. This joy bubbles up. He says it's like antibodies that rush in to meet the sad and to cure it, to make it go away, to fix it. I love that image. You know, if we can be willing to feel, fully feel, just for a little while, that first little bit of pain, that first little bit of sad, keep breathing. That's one of the tricks, one of the keys. Oh boy, I can feel it. It's coming in. My throat's getting tight. My heart's beating. I'm feeling clenched. Just keep breathing, and then we can feel something else. Spirit or love or compassion. What I felt when I opened that letter this time was compassion, not pain. I cried because I was crying for that little girl, and I felt such compassion for her. Such love. Before, I kept trying to push her off. No, that's silly. You don't need to feel that way. Now, I can bring her home, bring her back into me. You can do that too, if you're willing. I think that we all carry around some deep level of pain, which is just separation. Physical, mental, emotional, or soul pain doesn't mean something's wrong. Pain is a pointer. It's pointing to something that's ready to be healed. So if we can be brave doesn't mean we don't have fear. Brave means that we're willing to stand in the face of it. Look it boldly, squarely in the face and say, tell me what it is you need me to know. What is it that wants to be healed? What is it that wants to be let go of finally? When we're born, I don't know about you, but when I was born, I don't remember being born, but I remember in one of the processes I was doing, I had this vivid feeling of being born and being really, really mad. Because I was suddenly separate from the oneness. I was an individualized expression of the oneness. And I was, excuse the language, pissed off. I was really mad because every part of me wanted to be back in the oneness. But I'm here. And I'm here. And you're here. In a body, on this planet, right now, in this particular time, in this particular body, for a reason. We may not know why, but if we weren't supposed to be here, we wouldn't be here. I believe in an infallible oneness that knows what it's doing by means of us. And so, in order to know more of life, this creator, this presence, created all of this to experience itself in a bazillion different ways. But we all have that first initial pain of being separate. Maybe it's being separate from our mother because we were in the womb and suddenly we're separated. We were one, but now we're two. Maybe it's the separation of being a soul in a body, which is clumsy and clunky. You know, when we're souls, we probably get to float around a lot more. But we're in bodies that, you know, have gravity and weight. So if we can notice, I think original sin, when other philosophies talk about original sin, it's the sin of being separate. It's the mistake, that apparent mistake, of being separate. Well, it's not a mistake. There's a reason. We may never know what it is until we return to the oneness. Whenever that is, lifetimes or at the end of this one. I don't claim to know. And I think that's one reason why community is so important in this life. It's a way of connecting with other souls that feel separate and coming together. Seeing each other through another's eyes, seeing something new about ourselves that we didn't know before because that person sees us. When we're in spiritual community, I feel more seen for the truth of who I am, not the falsity of who I am. And I would hope that's the same for you. That being in spiritual community that knows that you are the beloved, that you are beautiful and perfect and whole, right where you are, no matter what's going on in your body, no matter what pain you may have, no matter what your story is, that you have a wholeness in you, that you're beautiful, that you are beautiful. That's how we move the suffering away. And we can just say, there's pain. The quote tonight from Ernest Holmes says, right where the pain seems to operate, the presence of God is. Right where the pain is, pointing at something that's ready to be healed, ready to be let go of, so that we can step more fully into who we really are. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and just take a couple of deep breaths. And I'm going to read the second part of the quote, and I really invite you to embody it. Let it filter into the atoms and molecules of your body. Know, really know, that in this presence, in the presence of the One, in the presence of divinity, in the presence of spirit, there is no tension, no struggle, no fear. There is no sense of conflict. Know this until there comes to your consciousness a deep, calm sense of peace and ease, and until every thought of pain is eliminated. Know this. At the deepest level of your being, there will be pain. We don't have to suffer. We feel it. We let it go. We let it teach us whatever we want it, whatever it needs to teach us, and then we let it go. I am grateful for this practice, for this teaching, which doesn't try to ignore pain, but uses it as a teacher, and then allows us to move forward and not stay stuck in our story.